This is another in the first read series where I read a poem by a poet I don't know or know very little about, just for the sheer joy of reading it the first time. I might read this differently if I come back to it later with more information about the poet. The first time is just sheer joy. This one is from the last show review, LASCAUX review.com. And it's called Checking Out. It's got an image, next to it, but I'm going to skip that because it wasn't by the poet. And it's by Claire Matturro. I recognize Claire's name. I can see in the bio there's a novelist as well. That's what I thought. But I was also a poet, apparently. Associate editor of the Southern Literary Review. Okay. And so as always, when I read a poem, I always look at the form first before I go into looking at it. I haven't read this at all, so I don't know, but I like to look at the form. This one, it looks like clearly open form. The lines are varying lengths, so not traditional form at all. Not a lot of rhyme here. Not even broken into separate stanzas. I'm just going to assume it's an open form, or what people call free verse, and go from there. So let's just read it. Checking out in a long line. My mind on what the hell I'm fixing for supper. All right, so it's about a fairly traditional thing, a daily activity, checking out long line. It feels like prose. I mean, this almost feels like a prose writer doing this. I don't usually say that, but I think I would say that no matter what in this case. Checking out a long line, my mind on what the hell I'm fixing for supper. I notice the guy in front of me has a gun strapped to his hip, like he's fucking Wyatt Earp. This one, I don't know specifically why the lines are breaking where they are in this one. This almost feels like this could be a flash fiction at this point. There doesn't seem to be that much of a clear rhyme or reason for the line breaks on this one. I don't like to say that when I get to a poem. I want to see where the line breaks are and why they're there and why that's important. And maybe there's more reason that I can see at this point, but let's just go here. Checking out. So it's checking out in the speaker's checking out in the long line. And when the speaker's mind is on, supper, and the guy in front of the speaker has a gun strapped to his hip, right? So it throws you into a different time, thinking about Wyatt Earp, like why is this guy with a gun strapped to his hip? This feels very contemporary America. This is something you might see in a lot of our states, unfortunately. I start to say something, but my tongue twists like the tie on the bag of potatoes. Yeah, I could see this. Like you start to say something, but then you rethink it because there's a guy with a gun sitting there strapped to his hip. Like, why does that guy need this in the grocery store? What exactly is he protecting? And while my chest thumps with something like pain and I freeze there with the canned beans, and like definitely playing on the freeze fight instinct we have here. And the speaker's freezing in the face of this situation. What do? Do you say something about something you think is wrong? Do you talk to this person, but the person, and in contemporary U.S. might have the law on their side for carrying this thing, which just feels kind of weird. And I freeze there with the canned beans and red apples vibrating in my cart, and the whole damn place reeking of fried chicken. It just feels so out of place, like in a grocery store, to have somebody who's like has a gun on them, and even like using fucking Wyatt Earp like it's a critique of him. Still, at this point, I'm not sure why the lines are breaking where they are, and it feels like this might have worked better as a prose poem because it wouldn't feel quite as choppy. It would just flow into each other and be a story. I'm not even sure quite yet that this needs to be a poem. That's okay, right? Reeking of fried chicken from the deli with its week-old bread while I try to breathe without moving. I could just leave my cart, get out quick in case he goes off, but then he starts humming what sounds like Amazing Grace. This is speaker thinks about just leaving the cart and getting out before something crazy happens. Sounds like Amazing Grace, and even from the back I can tell he's clean. So I mull it over, fret about having to shop again in another store. So like making a split decision about this person. The person's clean. It doesn't seem like they're just going to go off and start shooting people. So I'm all over Fred about having to shop at, again, another store with traffic getting thicker. And this is that whole like idea of, do you face the thing that's in your way or not? Do you actually face down this thing that's a problem, or do you just keep going? I think this is a bigger question than just the grocery store here, and turns into politics in general. Do you face this, this issue that's part of American culture right now, or do you just turn away and just try to live and ignore that it's there because you gotta go to another grocery store, or you just want to get things through? Every second I waste because of this fucking lighter, and I really need that bottle of red wine. This person just seems like they're going to go through and go ahead and buy the stuff because they need the groceries, and they don't want to go through the bother of going somewhere else. And they're just going to try to ignore this person as much as they can in the process. I mean, the idea here is interesting. I think it's a fun idea, and it's something that is a reader I think we can all connect with, if you live in the U.S., that is. For American readers especially, I think people outside of the U.S. could associate this with other ideas, and it would still click pretty well. The idea of seeing something in your gut is completely wrong, but being overwhelmed with life and with the decision to move forward and the complications of moving forward to try to address that issue, especially in a situation like here where it's just going to turn into an argument or, cause a problem, and it's not going to solve anything. So what do you do at that point? Fairly straightforward poem. It feels very prose-like as it runs through it. I even say even the word choice kind of feels like a narrative more than like a traditional, like a condensed poem in that sense. But as it is, that's the poem. Checking out. I like the play of the title. The title's fun. That actually is probably my favorite thing about this idea of checking out when you're stuck here in society. And you could engage, but you don't. You just check out. Like Claire Matturro.